Before we begin, I want to remind current and potential investors that we will be making various remarks about future expectations, plans, and prospects that are considered forward-looking statements. There are risks that actual results may differ from these statements. We refer you to the Safe Harbor statement at the end of this presentation, or to the forward-looking and risk factors sections of our public filings, which can be found on our website under Investor Filings, EDGAR, and SEDAR+. Statements are made as of today, August 22nd, 2025, and reflect our expectations as of today. Thank you for joining us for Zomedica's Investor Webinar Series. We're excited to have you with us as we take a closer look at our company, our innovative product platforms, and the passionate people driving our success. This series is designed to give you a deeper understanding of how we're delivering value to veterinarians and to our shareholders. At Zomedica, our mission is to deliver innovative diagnostic and therapeutic technologies that empower veterinarians to focus on what they love most, enhancing pet care and improving pet parent satisfaction. Equally important, we help vets with what they need most, streamlining workflow, increasing cash flow, and boosting practice profitability. We're focused on two of the fastest-growing segments in animal health, therapeutic devices and diagnostics, and have built a total addressable market of $2.7 billion in annual recurring revenue. We've launched 6 product platforms, each purpose-built to drive better outcomes, improve workflows, and enhance practice profitability. Our performance backs it up. Since the acquisition of PulseVet and Assisi, therapeutic device revenue was up 25%, diagnostics revenue is up 77% in fiscal year 2024. And we've maintained strong gross margins around 70%. This isn't just growth, it's momentum. Now let's hear from Larry Heaton, Zomedica's Chief Executive Officer.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our Fourth Friday at 4 webinar series. Whether you're a pet parent, shareholder, veterinary professional, or simply someone who loves animals as we do, we appreciate you spending time with us. Last month, we highlighted our Assisi pulse electromagnetic field therapy devices and how they enable pet parents to get involved with helping their pets deal with pain and inflammation. This month, we're focusing on VETIGEL Hemostatic Gel, a revolutionary product developed by Cressilon and licensed to us in January of this year. We've been introducing VETIGEL to the U.S. veterinary market, where we have exclusive rights. Internationally, we support Cressilon in expanding the global presence of VETIGEL. This partnership reinforces our mission to deliver innovative solutions that enhance patient outcomes while improving efficiency and profitability for veterinary practices. Looking ahead, we see significant growth potential as more practices adopt VETIGEL. Our field sales team, robust trade show presence, and weekly continuing education programs by Zomedica University are accelerating awareness and adoption. We're here to educate, engage, and empower you with tools that move veterinary medicine forward. Thanks for believing in our vision and for your continued support of Zomedica. With that, let's get started.
At Zomedica, our mission is guided by what we call our 5 pillars. These are core objectives that shape every decision we make about products and innovation. First and foremost, we aim to improve the quality of care for the pets. Equally important is enhancing the satisfaction of the pet parent, ensuring they feel confident and comfortable with the care provided. Our solutions also focus heavily on improving the veterinarian's daily workflow, helping veterinary practices operate smoothly and efficiently. Additionally, we are committed to positively impacting veterinarian cash flow, making sure our offerings are financially accessible and beneficial. Finally, our ultimate goal is to increase veterinarian profitability, providing products and solutions that help veterinary clinics grow and thrive financially.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our next in the series of Fourth Friday at 4 webinars. My name is Maya-Lisa Gluckert, and I'm the Senior Director of Product Commercialization here at Zomedica. If you were here for last month's presentation, you already know a little bit about me. If this is your first time meeting me, let me introduce myself. I've been in the veterinary industry my entire career, starting off working in a veterinary practice in various roles for over 20 years. After leaving practice, I then began working for manufacturers, eventually ending up at Assisi, which was then acquired by Zomedica. Zomedica has unique technology that helps with the workflow in clinics, as well as provides good medicine to the pets those clinics serve. This month's webinar, we'll be discussing VETIGEL and how vet practitioners are using it every day to help reduce complication in pets that are bleeding, whether it's from an accidental laceration or during a surgical procedure. It's so exciting to see how our products revolutionize veterinary practices, and VETIGEL is no exception. So let's dig into the meat of what VETIGEL is. VETIGEL is a hemostatic gel that veterinarians use to stop bleeding during the course of surgical procedures. It is made from fungi and algae, has a neutral pH, and is naturally absorbed into the body, much like suture material. Because it doesn't integrate with the clot, you're able to remove it for procedures such as enucleations, which are eye removals, or spinal surgeries such as hemilaminectomies. It doesn't require preparation, and it conforms to those complex wound geometries and difficult to reach bleeding sites due to it being a flowable gel. And again, stops bleeding in seconds. When we look at the mechanism of action, VETIGEL is acting as a mechanical barrier. It creates a surface area for the platelets to aggregate more efficiently and ultimately clot faster. Proper application means finding the defect and applying VETIGEL directly to it, filling the defect, and then anchoring and shearing off the product as you complete application to prevent the blood from escaping. It's important to wipe away as much blood as possible before applying VETIGEL in order to get to the source of bleeding. You also want to avoid touching the product with gloves or dry gauze, as the VETIGEL can actually adhere to those. The veterinarian will, during the course of application, want to apply gentle pressure to the product with a wet gauze sponge, use it to help maintain the mechanical seal. And VETIGEL ultimately acts as a mechanical barrier, creating a surface area for the animal's platelets to aggregate more efficiently and to ultimately clot faster. VETIGEL is changing how bleeding is stopped. Most veterinarians won't use clotting agents because they don't work well. They'll just use, as we call it, pressure and a prayer. And when we look at the history of those prior products, there are hemostatic powders that require mixing. Then we have gelatin sponges that you end up cutting into little bits. Then we also have human or bovine-derived thrombin and fibrin products. And then VETIGEL was most recently introduced in 2020. And when we look at VETIGEL compared to those other products, it stops bleeding much faster. In fact, it's in less than 5 seconds, where these other products can take anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes. And when something is bleeding that long, especially with high pressure bleeds, complications can occur. Now, VETIGEL stops bleeding in seconds by ionically cross-linking and forming a non-porous mechanical barrier. And the body's natural clot does not incorporate into the gel. And as I mentioned, it's comprised of algae and fungi-derived polymers, and its components are actually sodium alginate, poly and acetyl D-glucosamine, and water. And the flowable nature of the product is one of the properties that really helps it stand apart. Others, as I mentioned before, are powders or particles that require mixing, or foam cubes, or gelatin-based, which can actually cause reactions from those pets. Now, VETIGEL is the fastest solution to stopping bleeding. As I mentioned, it stops bleeding in seconds, and some of these other products can take up to 4 minutes. So this is putting VETIGEL in liver biopsies more than an order of magnitude faster than the next best competitor. It can be used in a variety of procedures, including, but not limited to, mass removals, dental extractions, lacerations, amputations, vascular bleeds, hemilaminectomies, spays, neuters, and more. When VETIGEL is in use, it can be used, as I mentioned, in all kinds of procedures all around the pet's body. So we covered some of these already on that prior slide, but a lot of times if you take a pet in to have their toenails trimmed, unfortunately, particularly with pets with black nails, you can clip a toenail too short and it can bleed. You could also have puncture wounds. With working dogs, you can see puncture wounds quite frequently because they're navigating through areas that are disrupted, and perhaps, it's a building collapse or a natural disaster. So that's a place where they will get lacerations in legs, puncture wounds, paw injuries that have sliced their paws open. And VETIGEL can be great to help stop bleeding in the field there too. VETIGEL is saving more than just time. You've heard me talk about time a lot thus far, but we're also looking at saving blood in our patients. When we look at blood loss comparisons from dental extractions to amputations to enucleations, you're going to see blood loss across all of those procedures. Every surgical procedure carries risk, anesthetic risk, blood loss risk, and more. VETIGEL allows us to control that blood loss risk, reducing that overall procedure time and increasing the speed to recovery. Blood loss matters in all patients, but blood loss in a Chihuahua is more detrimental to that individual dog than to the same volume of blood loss to a Great Dane. So being able to stop that bleeding quickly is incredibly important. Now, time, we've heard that saying, time is money. When you look at the time savings of VETIGEL, if you're waiting from 2 to 4 minutes to stop bleeding, that's really critical dollars for that veterinarian. Most veterinary hospitals will bill anesthetic time by the minute, and anesthetic time is increased by bleeding. So when that clinic reduces bleeding faster, it saves them time that can be used for another surgery or another appointment. Plus, that patient's recovery will be faster and smoother. Dental procedures not only include extractions, but they also include time to clean the teeth in the mouth. The average dental procedure can take 45 minutes to an hour, but longer if there's bleeding from an extraction or multiple extractions. Amputations and enucleations also bleed a lot, so reducing blood loss and surgical time here is also incredibly important. Now, when we look at VETIGEL use in our equine patients, not all clients are the same, and VETIGEL is a novel product in the veterinary market that's available for veterinarians to control bleeding in all types of procedures. So when we look at our equine patients, we have sinus procedures, enucleations, mass removals, floating of the teeth, castration, hoof procedures, and lacerations. And so we have that VETIGEL that can be used in all of those indications. Now, here we have a video of VETIGEL for a mass removal. You can see that the application is smooth and that bleeding has stopped very quickly. Next up, we have the enucleation. And as you can see on the image in the far left, that eye is bleeding quite a lot. So that picture is before that VETIGEL application. Then that VETIGEL has been applied, and then the VETIGEL in that middle picture has been removed. Now, we recommend removing the VETIGEL for enucleations, not because it can't stay in there, but because sometimes those sutures are put in too tight and the product can leak out between those sutures, causing alarm for that horse or that dog or cat owner, just because it looks like a possible infection when it is not. So we just recommend removal of the product for enucleations for that reason. But as I mentioned previously, VETIGEL is absorbed by the body, much like suture material is, so you can leave that product in there without any harm. Now, here is another mass removal, and this was the before and then the after the VETIGEL was applied. Mass removals, because you do have the vascularity in the skin, they will bleed quite a lot, so applying the VETIGEL will stop that bleeding. You don't have to remove the product here, and the veterinarian can just suture that incision closed with that product there. Now, exotics. There are a lot of limitations with what you can use with exotics. VETIGEL, though, does not have any such limitation. So you can use this in your wild cats, your turtles, your other amphibians, chameleons, other reptiles, and dolphins, and more. So it really does work across all sorts of species. And zoo medicine, a lot of these animals are very costly for these zoos to acquire and maintain. So making sure they're kept in the best health is critically important to them. Now, when we shift to small animal cases, you can use VETIGEL for a number of common veterinary procedures such as dentistries, spays or neuters, happy tail, epistaxis, which is nosebleeds, and other abdominal surgeries. And again, it is going to stop bleeding in seconds. So you heard me mention epistaxis, and here's a nice video covering the epistaxis. and you will use the special applicator tips to insert the product into the nasal cavity and continue to fill that product in that nasal passage. And then once that VETIGEL application is completed, we do recommend gentle pressure with wet gauze at the tip of the nostril. The product does not need to be removed, as the patient will either sneeze it out or swallow it. But again, if you have a patient that has a bloody nose, and you can get those for a number of reasons, including immune-mediated disorders, this is really going to help stop that bleeding quickly. Dental procedures. Almost every veterinary hospital in the US is going to do dental procedures. And dental procedures can be very bloody, particularly when there are extractions that are occurring. And when we look at the images on the screen here, you can see that the VETIGEL has stopped the bleeding. Now, if we move to our next slide here, there's a nice little video of a dental extraction that has taken place, and the veterinarian is filling that socket for that canine tooth with the product, and you fill that liberally, that socket liberally, so that you make good contact with the source of the bleed, and then that bleeding will have stopped very quickly. And then you will see the removal of that product, and then they were going to go in and actually flush out that tooth socket, and you can see that there is no additional bleeding occurring. You can also use VETIGEL in arterial or venous bleeds. These tend to be very high pressure bleeds, and it's important to fight blood volume with product volume and allow VETIGEL to cover that surrounding tissue. So application is important. So you want to liberally use that product and then shear it off and fill that defect and create that mechanical barrier. You can also use it in soft tissues. You can see here an application for a routine liver biopsy. And again, you're just going to fill that defect and then shear off the product and create that barrier, and use wet gauze with gentle pressure to make that seal occur. Now, let's hear from Dr. Wyoma at the Virginia Beach SPCA about a case where she used VETIGEL.
I used VETIGEL in a case of a 12-year-old Cocker Spaniel that had immune-mediated thrombocytopenia. This was a patient that had bilateral tooth root abscesses in both upper carnasal teeth and unfortunately could not wait to have the dental procedure done. The patient was fairly stable but had a recent flare-up of their disease, and so going into it, we were a little bit nervous about how our hemostatic control was going to be and if we were going to see a lot of bleeding. I was able to successfully remove the teeth and used VETIGEL. I applied it to the area just as I would with any other dental, and within a minute I was not seeing any other oozing or bleeding. I watched the extraction sites for another 2 to 3 minutes each to make sure I didn't see any additional bleeding, which I did not. So I closed it just as I would any other patient, and then continued to monitor that patient closely throughout the day to ensure that no further bleeding occurred. That patient did very, very well. We had a smooth, successful, rapid recovery and did not have any issues.
All bleeding stops eventually. Your vet's time is of the utmost importance, and potential issues of using current standards of care with either those other products or pressure and a prayer is, you can see, increased blood loss, systemic shock, prolonged anesthetic time, delayed wound healing, and that can be costly for the clinic in OR time. You're going to reduce the number of patients that are seen. You have a high cost of hemostasis, and then you have that risk of post-op bleeding. In my time at veterinary clinics, we saw patients come in from spay and neuter clinics that had post-op surgical bleeding. We would have to reopen those patients and find the source of the bleed and then suture them back closed. Nobody wants to do that, and especially because that is really detrimental for that pet. So if we can make sure we stop the bleeding before you get to that situation, is going to be great, great benefit for those pets. Now, one thing that we're seeing more in the US market is pet insurance coverage. And we have seen Trupanion and Pumpkin are covering the use of VETIGEL if the procedure done in the vet hospital is approved, and they will reimburse up to 90% of the cost. And you have product-based coverage that's tied directly to VETIGEL as a product, and no special insurance code is required. Now, you will see some variability because different plans have different coverages, and so you always want to have your pet owners check with their providers to see if they're getting something covered. Now, VETIGEL is offered with a couple of different options. We have our individual box of 5, and then 2 count boxes, and then the accessory tips. The accessory tips are really critical for our veterinary dental procedures, just because that allows us to get into small spaces for proper application. Also really helpful for those cases of epistaxis that we saw that video for, as well as with some of our exotics, just because they do tend to be much smaller in size. So that tip is going to allow you to get the product where you need it to go. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about speed, reducing surgical costs. The number of patients seen in a day is limited by how long each procedure takes to complete. A veterinarian is not going to move on to their next case until that bleeding has stopped and they've finished up with their current case. The longer it takes for them to stop the bleeding, the longer they have to defer other cases or other appointments. And blood transfusions are costly. Not every location has them. They require donor dogs or donor cats or other donor animals, and they're hard to get and they're expensive. And when we look at doing transfusions, it presents a risk for that patient, a direct cost of the blood, as well as time needed to coordinate the transfusion and typing and getting that blood to your clinic location. So if we can just mitigate that altogether, you're really better off to begin with. When we look at speed, it really matters as far as reduced surgical costs too. The sooner that bleeding is controlled, the sooner that recovery can begin. We talked about already the anesthetic risks that come with procedures, and blood loss is a leading cause of that short-term morbidity, shock, and lost life. And reduction of anesthesia can decrease mortality risk and ensure a quicker time to recovery. And pediatric and senior animals are at a particular risk of anesthetic-related adverse events. And future complications of hemorrhaging can severely impact a patient's life downstream. When we have decreased time to hemostasis, it's associated with a decreased incidence of acute kidney injury, acute respiratory distress syndrome, multiple organ failure, and sepsis. So stopping that bleeding is critically important for these patients. So let's use a product that works quickly.
Now let's take a look at the economic impact of VETIGEL across 3 common procedure categories: dental, amputation, and enucleation. Starting with dental procedures, clinics using VETIGEL see the biggest impact. By reducing bleeding and streamlining extractions, the average clinic can save over $7,000 per month and nearly $86,000 annually. That also means saving more than 33 hours a year in valuable clinical time. Moving to amputations, the savings are smaller, but still significant. Clinics save about $1,000 per month. That's more than $12,000 annually, while also reclaiming over 12 hours of time each year. And finally, enucleations, where VETIGEL really demonstrates efficiency. Clinics save over $3,000 each month, or more than $38,000 annually, while gaining nearly 25 hours back every year. When you add it all up, VETIGEL doesn't just improve surgical control, it delivers real, measurable cost savings and time efficiencies for veterinary practices. Since Zomedica began selling VETIGEL, our customer base of unique users has grown steadily month after month. Clinics are adopting VETIGEL at a consistent pace, which reflects both confidence in the product and the value it brings to everyday practice. This continued growth signals strong momentum and plenty of opportunity ahead. VETIGEL has already built a strong presence across the United States, and there's still plenty of room to grow. Rural clinics especially can benefit from bringing VETIGEL into their practices. Our sales team is working hard to expand adoption in these areas, and with distribution out of Plymouth, Minnesota, we can deliver orders quickly to meet demand. Now, let's meet the team. In this segment, you'll hear from several members of the team helping to meet the growing demand for VETIGEL. Let's hear from Lisa Gluckert, product manager of VETIGEL. What unique qualities of VETIGEL make it an exciting product to lead and grow in the veterinary market?
Thank you for that question. With my clinical experience, it's filling a much needed void, so to speak. So often vets and techs use gauze and pressure to stop bleeding, and knowing how VETIGEL can change the workflow and save you time, and there's never enough time in a clinical setting, makes it a really exciting product. It allows you to be prepared for the expected and for the unexpected. And so it's a really great add-in for clinics to have on hand to stop bleeding when it matters.
Why should every veterinary hospital consider keeping VETIGEL in their inventory from both a clinical and business perspective?
When you work in a vet hospital, you never know what's going to walk through the door. A trauma case like a pet hit by a car or some other emergency, your spays and neuters are coming, but it's those unexpected things that can really catch you off guard. And bleeding happens all the time, and VETIGEL helps it stop quickly. I've used other hemostatic products when I still worked in a practice, and all the time, pressure worked better than those products. Now that we have VETIGEL, I would have loved to have had this product when I worked in a clinic because it's reducing the time for the patient to clot and then reducing that blood loss that that patient's experiencing, and then also reducing that anesthetic risk that they're exposed to. Plus, vets and techs can finish up their current patient and move on to the next patient, keeping their other surgeries or booked appointments on time. Running late is a chronic issue that you see at vet hospitals and your doctor's office for that matter too, because the unexpected does pop up. So if you can reduce that variable of bleeding, then that's really going to help you keep on target.
Now let's hear from Nicole Westfall, Senior Vice President Marketing. How does VETIGEL complement and strengthen Zomedica's overall product portfolio?
So VETIGEL is a fun topic to talk about. It complements and strengthens Zomedica's overall portfolio by expanding its reach into a critical section of veterinary medicine: rapid, effective bleeding control. This makes it a natural fit within our portfolio here of innovative tools and technologies, which are designed to give veterinarians greater confidence, efficiency, and positive outcomes. While our other solutions focus on advanced diagnostics or therapeutic innovations, as everyone has heard a lot about in our previous webinars, VETIGEL directly addresses the emergency and procedural needs by filling a gap in hemostatic care. So diving a little bit deeper in how it complements and strengthens our portfolio, we think about the main ways it does that. It strengthens Zomedica's clinical reach by broadening the company's offerings from diagnostics and long-term care into acute intervention, as we just talked about. It also enhances cross-synergy with our existing products. Think about it. You have the Assisi dental loop and you have VETIGEL. So you're using the dental loop before and after dental procedures, and you're using VETIGEL during the procedure. We're using VetGuardian post-operatively to monitor, and we're using VETIGEL in the surgery. So the way we are doing it here, it easily provides cross-synergy with our existing products. Then, last but not least, it reinforces our reputation for veterinary-first innovation, positioning the company not only as a leader in advanced technologies, but also in critical hands-on products that improve patient outcomes. So if you were to sum it all up, in short, VETIGEL adds depth to Zomedica's portfolio by giving veterinarians a tool they can rely on in the most urgent and time-sensitive scenarios, strengthening both the company's clinical impact and our strategic market position.
Where do you see the most significant market opportunities for VETIGEL in the next few years?
In thinking about the most significant market opportunities for VETIGEL in the next few years, those lie in the ability to become a standard of care in everyday veterinary practice, particularly in those areas where rapid, reliable bleeding control has the greatest impact. This includes routine and specialty surgeries, dental procedures, and really any of those procedures where bleeding is common and can be challenging to manage. And then emergency medicine, of course, time is critical, and VETIGEL is here to help. As practices seek to improve efficiency, safety, and client confidence, VETIGEL provides a clear advantage by reducing procedure time and helping reduce complications. Beyond general practice, there is a strong opportunity in specialty and referral hospitals where high surgical volumes and complex cases amplify the need for advanced hemostatic solutions. In addition, the working dogs, such as police, military, and service animals, all of those working dogs that we count on every day, represent an important opportunity for us, given the higher risk of trauma and the premium placed on rapid life-saving care. So in the next few years, we see VETIGEL establishing itself as an essential tool across both companion animals and working dogs, creating significant growth potential in the veterinary market.
VETIGEL has potential across multiple sales channels. Can you share how Zomedica is approaching these opportunities?
Well, we've learned throughout this webinar what a unique and amazing product VETIGEL is. And it's unique in its applications for sales channels as well. Here at Zomedica, we're taking a strategic approach to ensure its adoption wherever it can deliver the most impact. Let's talk about the veterinary channel. Our dedicated sales team is focused on working directly with general practices and specialty hospitals to demonstrate how VETIGEL can enhance both surgical and emergency outcomes. At the same time, our corporate accounts team and distribution team, they see opportunities with distributors and group purchasing organizations to broaden our access and awareness quickly across practices of all sizes. But beyond clinics, we're also evaluating opportunities within the government and institutional markets, particularly for those working dogs, military and service animals we were talking about, where VETIGEL's life-saving potential is especially valuable. By leveraging Zomedica's established commercial infrastructure, our strong customer relationships, and our experienced sales team, we are positioning VETIGEL to reach veterinarians and animal health professionals through the channels where not only it can make the greatest difference to veterinarians, but to our bottom line as well.
Now let's hear from Greg Blair, Senior Vice President of Business Development. What strategic factors led Zomedica to license VETIGEL and bring it into our product lineup?
We looked at a number of factors, as we always do when we brought VETIGEL in. One was the fit with our product line and our call point of companion animal and equine veterinarians. And we felt that VETIGEL is something that can be used by all veterinarians for a variety of things, and that it would be a way for our representatives to have a direct conversation with the veterinarian about how they control bleeding in the practice and the benefits that VETIGEL can bring to that. So it fit with the product line. It's something that every veterinarian needs, and it was a great way for our representatives to have that initial conversation with the vet about hemostasis.
Can you share how canine units are planning to use VETIGEL and what impact this could have on its broader adoption?
There's a lot of ways that canine units and really all kinds of professional working dogs can use VETIGEL. There's a movement within this community to partner with their veterinarians and build first aid kits specific to the needs of their canine partners and their working dogs. We recently partnered with a highway patrol unit to outfit all of their canines with VETIGEL. And in this application, they're looking to use it for everything from torn pads, cut paws, minor lacerations, all the way up to worst case trauma scenarios where their canines are injured while trying to apprehend dangerous suspects. And the application of VETIGEL there is really to give them time to get their canine partners to an emergency veterinarian to save their lives. We see this as a fast growing area. There's a movement within the working dog community to be better equipped to care for the dogs. And we're looking to partner broadly with these units to make sure that they have access to VETIGEL, and then it can be used to save their canine partners' lives in the worst case scenario.
Beyond veterinary clinics, what other organizations or sectors do you see benefiting from VETIGEL?
That's a great question. We do believe that it's very important for other organizations and sectors to work closely with their veterinarian to know how to use VETIGEL appropriately. But we do anticipate some veterinarians will sell it on to owners that are in specific sectors or to trainers that are in specific sectors, such as the equine sector. Oftentimes, equine medicine is a remote practice, and owners don't always have ready access to get into a veterinarian for routine bleeding. We see that's an area where owners may buy the VETIGEL from their veterinarian and get trained on how to use it to take care of day-to-day needs in their pastures.
Now let's hear from Nick Volkman, Materials Specialist in Operations of Zomedica. How has adding VETIGEL to the Minnesota warehouse improved operational efficiency and order fulfillment?
Yeah, so shipping direct to the customers has actually allowed us to continue our same-day fulfillment commitment we have held here in Minnesota.
What unique logistical or handling considerations come into play when shipping VETIGEL to customers?
Shipping VETIGEL to customers has allowed us to expand our Triforma packaging procedures in Minnesota to accommodate VETIGEL. And then adding VETIGEL to our fulfillment catalog has helped increase our outbound volume here in Minnesota.
Now let's hear from Brittany Boyson, Cresalon's national sales manager. From Cresalon's perspective, what made Zomedica the ideal partner to bring VETIGEL to market?
Zomedica brings several strategic advantages that align with our goals for VETIGEL in the animal health space. Zomedica has a national sales infrastructure that brought a number of inside sales representatives, account managers, and professional service veterinarians who are embedded in the vet market. This allows us for constant and scalable outreach to clinics and hospitals. We really wanted a partner who could help drive awareness and adoption of a novel product like VETIGEL. In addition, we saw Zomedica's portfolio of products that are already used through the veterinary practice as a natural opportunity to position VETIGEL alongside existing offerings. This can make it easier to introduce VETIGEL into a clinical workflow and save time and costs for veterinary practices.
Can you share a customer success story that demonstrates VETIGEL's impact in an unexpected or compelling way?
VETIGEL is proudly manufactured in Brooklyn, New York. And at a local emergency hospital, Veterinary Emergency and Referral Group, better known as VERG, we witnessed its life-saving power firsthand just miles away from our office. At VERG in Brooklyn, VETIGEL was used to treat a small dog suffering from a severe stab wound, which is a devastating injury for an animal of his size. Benji, the dog, arrived to VERG in critical condition, and this is a type of injury that's very fatal due to the rapid blood loss. Thanks to the expertise of the surgical team and the use of VETIGEL, his life was saved and Benji made a full recovery. For me personally, it's really rewarding to be part of a company where we can directly impact the lives of pets and the families who love them. This case also highlighted something unique about VETIGEL. It's not just effective in controlled surgical environments, but also in emergency trauma situations where every second counts and traditional methods might be too slow or invasive for such a small, fragile patient.
Based on your training experience, how have customers responded to VETIGEL, and what factors contribute most to their success with it?
When veterinarians see VETIGEL in action for the first time, the response is almost universally amazed and excited. I have witnessed countless wow moments where experienced veterinarians watch bleeding stop in seconds, something that typically takes minutes with traditional methods such as foams, powders, or simple pressure. They're often thrilled and immediately begin thinking about how to incorporate it into their next surgery, asking questions such as, can I use this in a spay procedure? Or what about dental extractions? Once they receive a brief training, typically 10 minutes or so, they quickly understand both the technology and the application technique. And this is crucial to ensure that they feel confident using VETIGEL and are prepared to apply it in a wide range of procedures. The gel's consistency makes it easy to apply precisely where needed. And because it's plant-based and bioabsorbable, veterinarians don't have the usual concern about foreign material remaining in the body. I've also noticed that once a veterinarian in a practice becomes comfortable with VETIGEL, they become internal champions, training their colleagues, sharing success stories. The most successful customers are those who integrate it into their standard protocol rather than saving it for the emergency situation. They've reported that VETIGEL readily available reduces surgery time, minimizes patient stress from prolonged procedures, and gives them peace of mind, especially in those unexpected moments when bleeding becomes challenging to control through conventional means.
If you could leave potential customers and investors with one key takeaway about VETIGEL, what would it be?
When VETIGEL is adopted as a standard of care in animal hospitals, it enables teams to save valuable time, reduce operating costs, and deliver better patient outcome. At the end of the day, VETIGEL just doesn't save time and money, it saves lives.
Now let's hear from Dr. T.J. Barkley, Senior Professional Services Veterinarian. From a veterinarian's perspective, what makes VETIGEL a must-have tool in clinical practice?
Well, I think having a variety of different hemostatic options in a practice is always good. While a ligature might always be the first option, it's not always feasible. So having an alternative product where you're able to achieve hemostasis without a ligature is a must-have.
How does VETIGEL compare to other hemostatic products you've used, and what sets it apart clinically?
I think the main thing that sets VETIGEL apart is while it is intended to be left in body cavities and absorb over time, I think that what makes it unique is the ability to remove the product if you need to. Other hemostatic products that are gauzes or other type of products, that they form a matrix that the clot becomes enmeshed into, and then if you remove that product, you also remove the clot. Whereas VETIGEL doesn't become a part of the clot. It remains separate. So once the clotting has occurred, you can remove the VETIGEL product without removing the clot. And that's very useful in a lot of cases.
What is your preferred clinical application for VETIGEL, and why does it stand out for that use case?
I think there's a couple of different avenues here. Of course, there's always going to be procedures that are a little bit more likely to have severe hemorrhaging or significant hemorrhaging. Enucleations are one option or one example there. And then, but keep it in mind for the routine cases as well. Dental extractions are a good example. Just that's a very routine procedure, but being able to quickly control hemorrhage from the alveolus and move on to the next task is a way that VETIGEL can even save time on the most routine of procedures.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Zalke, Senior Vice President of Finance and Corporate Controller for Zomedica. I would like to thank everyone for your continued interest in Zomedica and for your time today learning about VETIGEL. Before concluding today's presentation, I would like to highlight our second quarter business performance as previously reported in our 10-Q filing on August 6th. For the 18th consecutive quarter, the company posted record year-over-year revenue for that respective quarter. Revenue for the second quarter of 2025 was $7 million, an increase of 14% to the same period of 2024, highlighted by 86% growth in our diagnostic segment, which is reflective of the continued adoption and utilization of our TRUFORMA point-of-care diagnostic system and assays. Across both of our reporting segments, therapeutic devices and diagnostics, consumables revenues, which are a function of our growing install base and are recurring in nature, grew 21% versus the prior year. We have noted in the past that international markets present significant growth opportunities for the company and are a strategic focus. To that end, we were pleased to see international revenues increase 13% year on year. Our gross margins, a key component to reach profitability, remained strong at 67%. Moving to operating expenses. We continue to see operating leverage in our business. Year to date, operating expenses are down 7% or $2.1 million compared to 2024 expenses. Operating expenses net of impairment charges taken in Q2 2024 as a percentage of sales have reduced 37% year on year, reflective of both improved sales performance and diligent execution of our cost reduction initiatives. In the past, we have referenced the investments we have made to enable scaling and estimate we have the capacity to meet customer demand at 5 times our current levels. And as such, we expect to continue to see operating leverage improve as our revenue growth objectives advance. As of June 30th, 2025, the company held $59.1 million in cash, cash equivalents, and available for sale securities, while holding essentially zero debt. During the second quarter, the company's adjusted cash burn, which accounts for capital expenditures and other one-time related cash expenditures such as severance, was $5.1 million compared to an adjusted cash burn of $6.3 million in Q1, a reduction of 19%. These numbers evidence the company's strong liquidity position, along with its continued focus on the execution of cost reduction initiatives as we continue our drive for cash flow profitability. Having highlighted financial performance that once again saw record revenues for the respective quarter, improving operating leverage, and the maintenance of a healthy balance sheet, I would now like to pass the presentation to Zomedica's CEO, Larry Heaton, for further business updates and concluding remarks. Larry?
Thanks, Mike. As you've just heard, we're making progress on the 2 primary drivers of our path to profitability: growing revenues and reducing operating expenses, both in absolute dollars and as a percentage of revenue. all while maintaining substantial margins. Now, we're certainly not done in these areas. We actually expect to accelerate sales growth and see further operating expense reductions as cost reduction actions that we took in the first half of the year reflect themselves in second half spending reductions. We also expect operating cash burn to reduce in the second half as certain restructuring expenses are behind us and R&D projects are concluded. As you know, we've been investing in several projects that will culminate now in product launches during the next month or so, which will not only put those expenditures behind us, but will also provide opportunities for increased revenue growth. Overall, we were pleased, but not satisfied with our second quarter performance and are committed to improving in all areas associated with reaching profitability. As we look to the next several months, we expect to fully launch our AI-enabled TrueView digital cytology microscope, several new TrueForma assays, and an enhanced VetGuardian system, all of which are the result of investments that we made in internal R&D activities, and which we expect now to contribute to increased revenues and operating leverage.